Hello. Audible? Hello everyone. I'm so sorry for this inordinate delay because of farmers' protest and what happened on the 26th of January. A lot of barricades have been put in Delhi. Anyways, my name is Abhishek. I will be taking the discussion of science and technology, environment and disaster management. There were 8 questions from these sections, and in fact the trend has been more or less same like previous years. So if you look at the trend, you will realize that on an average from science and technology a minimum of 2 to 4 questions. 2 question was only asked once, I think in 2015 if I am not mistaken. Maximum of 4 questions that was asked I think in 2018, and on an average जो है साइंस एंड टेक से हर साल there have been 3 questions from environment, 2 to 3 questions on an average, again 3 questions from disaster management, 2 questions almost every year. 2 questions were asked from disaster management. Once there were 3 questions from disaster management. So but on an average you will realize that 2 questions were there from disaster management. But this year there was only 1 question. So this year the total number of questions from science and technology is 3, from environment is 3, and from disaster management it is 1. I think from environment it is 4 questions if I am not mistaken. So on the total number of questions which I have to take is 8. Now why these 3 sections are very important? So whenever you think about paper 3, economy pops up in your mind, because economy on an average there are 8 to 10 questions which will be asked from the economy section, and लोग अच्छे से पढ़ते हैं. But the thing is that these sections are very scoring. The questions, despite being technical subjects, science and technology and environment are quite easy in mains examination. There have been very few exceptions where questions were difficult in nature. Rest of the questions are quite straightforward. Each and every year the questions are quite straightforward. And even if you have some basic understanding of things, you can actually score quite well. So paper 3 has been scoring area. So if you look at the entire trend in past 3, 4, 5 years, you will realize that paper 1 and paper 3 has been the most consistent area where people have scored very high marks. And only those people will be able to score high marks who give attention to these sections also, to internal security, disaster management, environment and science and technology. So just focusing on economy will of course not give you very high marks in this section. Anyways, without any further ado, let's start the discussion. So I have to take 8 questions. So 4 questions were of 10 marks and rest of the 4 questions were of 15 marks. So first question, अच्छा अब देखो there is always a trend which UPSC follows, is that they highlight on the keywords which is given in syllabus. In fact paper 3 in general this was perhaps easier compared to other papers and it was quite straightforward. So but in science and technology you realize that they pick up a keyword and each and every year there will be a question on those keywords. So their favorite area is of course space technology and biotechnology, but there was not a single question from these 2 areas directly in this paper. So space technology, biotechnology वैसे favorite है, but there are other keywords also mentioned in the syllabus. Things like information technology, computers, robotics, intellectual property rights, apart from space and biotechnology. And you will realize that they are asking one question from all these keywords each and every year. So nanotechnology was last asked in 2016, and now they have, after 4 years, they have asked a question on nanotechnology in 2020. So I feel like that perhaps next year robotics is an important keyword, because the last time they asked a question on robotics was 2015, 5 साल हो गए. So perhaps a question related to robotics, jobs versus automation, or in fact artificial intelligence. Next year you can expect a question on these lines. because they will always pick up one line from the syllabus and they will ask a question from it. There is another line in the syllabus, use of science and technology in everyday life, and look at the second question, question number 6 of the paper. How is science interwoven deeply with our lives? This is directly taken from syllabus, science and technology in everyday life. There is a line in syllabus, use of science and technology in everyday life. तो सीधे सीधे पूछ लिया. Second part of the question is, what are these striking changes in agriculture triggered off by the science based technologies? Technologies are science based, so I'm not sure what science based technologies mean here. But anyways, let's start with the question number 5. What do you understand by nanotechnology and how is it helping in health sector? I was so happy to see this question because I also take many current affairs batches, and I specifically ask students to study nanotechnology and especially study the application of nanotechnology in health sector, because again nanotechnology has application in wide variety of areas. It has application in water purification, it has application in energy storage, it has application in defense purposes, strategic purposes. But the most striking and most important applications you find is in medicine sector. So first of all, what is nanotechnology? So nanotechnology is a domain of technology which deals with all the aspects of nanomaterials. So two words, all the aspects. So all the aspects mean that from manufacturing these materials to transportation, handling, and how you are going to utilize these materials. All this will be part of nanotechnology. And what are nanomaterials? So nanomaterials are those materials which are of nano dimension. So 1 nanometer is 10 to the power minus 9 meter. So basically we are talking about atomic and molecular distances. जो atomic and molecular distances होते हैं, they are of angstrom. So nanomaterials, nanotechnology generally deals with materials which are of 1 to 100 nanometer of dimension. Very small particles, very small material. Now why these materials are so important? Because if you can utilize materials at atomic and molecular structure, if you can manipulate material at this level, the possibilities are much wider. Like you can create, in principle you can create anything out of nanomaterial. I will give you a very good example. Those perhaps who watch superhero movies, the last Avengers movie, the Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, if you guys have watched it, I am using this Avenger thing to explain nanotechnology, but the latest Iron Man suit, that was based off nanotechnology, that how nanomaterials can assemble themselves. Of course that is part of science fiction, but the science behind it, it's not that it is completely logical. In principle it can happen, but in future, as of now, it is not happening anywhere in the world. Even we are nowhere near it. But the thing is that nanotechnology, if we can manipulate material at atomic and molecular level. So at atomic and molecular level, what changes? The first thing which changes is atoms and molecules are governed by quantum mechanics. We cannot use the postulates of classical physics to talk about nanomaterials. So we have to talk in terms of quantum mechanics. Then in metals and other materials, जो electron का mobility है, that is very much limited. Since in one dimension, since nanomaterial we are talking about dimension of 10 to the power minus 9 meter. In general, when we are talking about a macro material, electrons are free to move anywhere in the lattice. But in nanomaterials that's not the case, and that changes a lot of properties. Because fundamentally how atoms and molecules are arranged in a material, that determines the property of a material on macroscopic level. Properties like what color the material is, what is its perhaps boiling point, melting point, what is its specific heat capacity, what is its reactiveness, what is its resistance, compressibility. A lot of factors are determined on the simple fact that how atoms and molecules are rearranged. But since we are talking about nanomaterials, the material property completely changes. I will give you a very good example. Think about gold. Normal gold is of yellow lustrous color, but a nano gold's color will be a red color. It can change to purple if you further change the dimension. So जैसे ये पेन है मेरे हाथ में, if I cut this pen in half, its properties will not change. Properties like boiling point, specific heat capacity, all these properties will not change. But in nanomaterial, a nanomaterial of 100 nanometer and same material of 1 nanometer, they will exhibit different properties. Now if you can effectively utilize these properties, the possibilities are endless and so many things are happening in many areas. So how do you attempt this question? That what do you understand by nanotechnology? Define nanotechnology, then mention that how nanotechnology is being used in many areas. Just mention the name of areas without going into details, because you have to go into detail with respect to health sector, that what are the applications of nanotechnology in health sector. So now come to the specific points, that how nanotechnology is helping in health sector, and you can give many examples with respect to health sector. For example, one of the biggest achievements of nanotechnology in health sector is targeted drug delivery. Generally, a part of our cells and tissues are diseased, are damaged. Now we take medicine and based on our internal transportation system of body, we get cured. But in the process there are side effects, right? There might be some side effects, some healthy cells might also be affected because of normal medication. Targeted drug delivery, you can use nanomaterials and you can target those cells which are actually diseased. So give this is a very important keyword in terms of nanotechnology, that how you can achieve targeted drug delivery using nanomaterials. That is the first thing. So targeted drug delivery. Then diagnosis of disease. Nano devices, many nano robots, they can circumspect the body and find the cause of disease. So nanomaterials, nano based devices are actually helping a lot in disease diagnosis. Cancer treatment. Now cancer still remains, you can manage the symptoms of cancer, it may prop up in future. So cancer treatment is something where a lot of research is happening. Now a lot of research in nanotechnology has shown quite remarkable processes, that certain nanomaterials, for example, in fact gold based nanomaterials which I was talking about, they react with tumorous cells and they destroy them without harming neighboring cells. So lot of gold based, आप example दे सकते हो, that gold based nanomaterials have proven to be very effective against cancerous cells, जो tumorous cells हैं. In tissue engineering, you can use nanotechnology to repair damaged tissues. A major public health issue this entire world is facing is the issue of antimicrobial resistance. I am very sure you must have heard about this, that lot of microbes are developing resistance against medicines which we generally eat. So for example, lot of bacteria have developed resistance against antibiotics because of how we are using them. For anything we use antibiotics, it's quite dangerous actually. So antimicrobial resistance is a matter of concern, and those bacteria or those microbes which have developed resistance against a wide range of variety of medicines, they are called superbugs. Now nanotechnology have been proven to be very effective in killing superbugs. Write it down. So talk about what superbugs are, explain what superbugs are, and explain that how it is a matter of great concern for the entire world, especially for India. In India, the burden of antimicrobial resistance is perhaps highest in the world. Now how nanotechnology can be very effective in killing superbugs, talk about that. 5 point बहुत है, और भी किसी को point पता है, write it down, but try to explain them in 1 or 2 lines, because that is the main part of the question. So in first part 150 words का है, explain nanotechnology, define nanotechnology, talk about its application in various areas, and then jump to the main part of the question. So for example, if I have to differentiate, if I have to divide my answer 150 words में लिखना है मुझे, I will use perhaps 40 words in introduction. I will define nanotechnology and I will talk about how it is used in many areas. Then I will use next 100 words in application in health sector. I will use specific keywords which are important while writing answer, and in conclusion perhaps we can talk about what is happening in India in this regard. For example, we have a nano mission, 12 5-year plan जो हमारा था, it envisaged a nano mission which is led by Department of Science and Technology. We can also talk about that in nanotechnology, India has the third highest number of research papers which are being published after US and China. You can talk about that. इतने पे खत्म कर सकते हो, हमको issues, challenges ये सब नहीं बताना. This question is not asking about what are the issues, what are the challenges with nanotechnology. The question is very specific to what nanotechnology and what are its application in health sector. So in conclusion, what is India doing? If you can mention it, it's well. Even if you do not write it, even if you are not writing a conclusion in this answer, it's okay. It doesn't like ऐसा नहीं कि कुछ आपने बहुत बड़ा mistake कर दिया है. If you have not written a conclusion here, this question is not about your opinion or debate. It's a very straightforward question. So this was an easy question, directly picked up from your syllabus. Now let's come to the next question. Question number 6. How is science interwoven deeply with our lives? What are the striking changes in agriculture triggered off by science-based technologies? Now this is again a 2 questions. These are 2 different questions. देखो, तो दोनों में आपको 75 words लिखने पड़ेंगे. In first question, ideally you should be able to differentiate that first part of the question is perhaps the weightage of first part is 1/3 and the next part of weightage is 2/3. But in this question, both parts are equally important. 50-50%. So 75 words in the first part, 75% in the second part. How is science interwoven deeply with our lives? Of this you can write an essay on it. This is a topic where you can write an essay. But here comes the challenge that you have to control your emotions. ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने 1000 word तो छोड़ दो, 1000 word तो नहीं लिखोगे. But turns out that you have written 200 words just on how is science deeply interwoven with our lives. You can write so many things, right? I'm like, even if you have no idea, you have never prepared for UPSC, and if I ask you this question, I'm very sure you can give me a number of points. Think about the devices we use, smart devices, smart laptops, computers, tablets, mobiles. Think about the impact of internet on our lives, the daily applications we use, from perhaps alarm clocks to perhaps Zoom calls for our work right now because of COVID-19, or for example monitoring our sleep cycle. So we are so much dependent on so many types of application. We have smart devices to monitor our heart rate, blood pressure, etc. Apple clock, Apple watches, बढ़िया example है इसके. Think about the entertainment. For all our entertainment we are dependent on science and science-based technologies. Think about healthcare, the revolutions which has occurred in healthcare. It will not be possible without development in science. Like so much we have, so much distance we have come in terms of healthcare. Right? We have treatments of so many those diseases which were untreatable. Epidemics such as cholera, they were quite common in a country like India. Now nobody even hears about cholera. So we have come a long way in terms of healthcare also. Of course we have also created a number of problems because of how our developmental pattern has been. वो एक अलग issue है, but there you do not have to talk about that. Think about our requirement of energy. So one of the most important challenge for humanity has been that how to have new sources of energy. So we started from, say for example, burning of fire using to create fire using 2 stones, and from that now we are producing nuclear energy, we are producing solar energy and all that, different types of energy apart from of course fossil fuel based energy. So there are so many areas where you can talk about that how science is deeply interwoven with our lives. But in this question the real challenge is that how you are going to limit yourself. You have to limit yourself up to 70-75 words, not more than that, because again you have to attempt the entire paper. एक question पे हमको 15 मिनट नहीं देना. This question is only of 10 marks. You only have to give it 6 minutes. You have to finish this answer in 6 minutes. And first part you have to answer first part in 3 minutes. So 3 मिनट में आप जितना लिख सको लिखो, आगे बढ़ो फिर उसके बाद. Come to the second part of the question. What are the striking changes in agriculture triggered off by science based technologies? So basically there is a syllabus, there is a keyword in your syllabus जो कि वैसे इकोनॉमी का पार्ट है. E-technology in the agriculture, E-technology in agriculture ऐसे कुछ करके एक वर्ड लिखा हुआ है. But the question is clearly with respect to use of science and technology in various areas. So agriculture में बहुत सारा science based technology है. अब this part you can structure in different way. For example, one structure can be where you can talk about how starting from the agriculture का पूरा process क्या है. You go and buy seed. पहले तो आप seed खरीदोगे. Then you will plow the field. You will plant your crop. You will use fertilizers, pesticides. You will, when the बीच में आप irrigation करोगे, when finally your crop is matured, threshing होगा, you will recover the grain part and whatever you are using, whatever your crop is. Finally you will try to sell it. If there is some other problem with the crop, government can give you insurance. There is crop insurance schemes. So these are different stages in agriculture, starting from buying seed. Now can you think of the technologies which are being used in all these areas? That can be one structure. That in all stages of agriculture you are using technology. High variety seeds producing, say for example, biotechnology, genetically modified crops, or in general cross breeding of crops, or fortified crops, food fortified crops are being developed to provide more nutrition. Can you think about technological development? Say for example in irrigation, you can talk about how irrigation, different types of irrigation methods, micro irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, all these are aspects of technological development that even in irrigation we are trying to do something. Then can you talk about use of fertilizers, pesticides? There also you can talk about that how fertilizers, we are using organic fertilizers, we are using allelopathic crops to perhaps kill pesticides and unwanted weeds. This is an example of science based technology, right? Or specific होना है, you can talk about that how different technologies. Then you can talk about space-based technologies, that how space-based technology provide important information such as information related to weather to farmers. So in fact there is a department which is called agrometeorology, right? So what is agrometeorology? So agrometeorology consists of 3 things. That first part is you have to, first part is of course weather monitoring. Second part is that how this weather monitoring will affect your agriculture, ये information, and third part is this information is given to farmers, information to farmers. All these 3 things combined is called agrometeorology. You can talk about that how in agrometeorology we are using space based technologies such as weather monitoring satellites or communication satellite to provide information to farmers. We can also talk about modern technologies. For example, now people are using big data analytics to understand behavior of different crops, what type of fertilizers can be used, what should be the ideal mixture of fertilizers, pesticides, etc., so that we move towards sustainable agriculture. We can talk about that how even in transportation we are using technology, so that whatever crop is, fruits, vegetables, they are protected for a longer duration. Shelf life of perishable items such as fruits and vegetables has increased. How it has increased? We have applied different type of technology. For example, nuclear technology is used to enhance the shelf life of fruits and vegetables. We can talk about that, right? We can also talk about that how post harvest losses, for example, if say losses हुए हैं, even in those scenarios, as part of Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, government is using technologies such as artificial intelligence to determine that how much insurance is required for farmers. So we are collecting lot of data, and based on that data we are able to determine the amount of money which should be given to farmers in case of any sort of disaster such as drought, flood, etc. So lot of steps have been taken. We can talk about precision agriculture. So there are so many keywords which you can use in this answer. तो एक approach तो ये होगा कि in different stages of agriculture how technology has made remarkable changes first. Another approach can be that instead of different stages you can talk about different technologies itself, that how biotechnology is helping, how nanotechnology is helping, how space based technology is helping, how information technology is helping. तो ये भी एक अप्रोच हो सकता है. बोथ अप्रोचेज आर फाइन. एनी अदर अप्रोच, कोई भी और अप्रोच अगर आपको लगता है कि इज यूजफुल, यू कैन यूज दैट. But again, the key word here, the key thing to remember is that you have to limit your answer in 75 words. So whatever approach you are adopting, you have to limit your words. You have limit your words. Okay, let's come to the next question. So again, this was an easy question. The next question is, how does the draft environmental impact assessment notification 2020 differ from the existing EI notification 2006? Now this was one of the most expected questions of the paper. Generally UPSC does not ask about draft notification, but two things. First, environmental impact assessment is directly given in your syllabus, and second, this draft notification was in use for all the wrong reasons. It was criticized so much, it was covered by all the newspapers, that this was a very much expected question. And in fact, this question, that how it is different from 2006, that was also very much expected. So whenever you read the criticism of this notification, you will read it in terms of that how things have changed. What was earlier, how things have changed and have made it worse as per many experts. So this comparison was also very easy, that how things have changed compared to the past notification. Like how to approach this question? So ideally you should define environmental impact assessment in the introduction itself. What is environmental impact assessment? So environmental impact assessment is for any developmental project, the likely impacts on the local ecology and environment while taking care of other factors such as socio-economic, cultural factors involving public participation. This entire process is called environmental impact assessment. If you have time, there is a ready-made flow chart of environmental impact assessment which you can use in answer, although that is not required. If someone has done it, if you can draw that flow chart in 5 to 10 seconds, it's okay, otherwise it's not required. Because this is only a 10 marks question, you have to finish your answer in 150 words and you have to write comparison from 2006 and 2020 draft notification. Now draft notification was given by government as per their promise that we need to enhance our ease of doing business ranking. भारत को, इंडिया को इस चीज के लिए बहुत क्रिटिसाइज करते हैं that there is no ease of doing business, there is always red tapeism, there are many bureaucratic delays, there are so many clearances. One of those clearances is of course environmental clearance. So there is always a criticism. So government's argument was that we want to expedite the developmental processes, developmental programs, so that investors have confidence in Indian system. And because of that, government came up with this notification. But the moment these notifications came, it was heavily criticized by many environmental groups, by many environmental experts on various grounds. Now what are those grounds? अब इसका भी दो structure हो सकता है. So one structure can be that you can make a table. आप एक टेबल बना लो. डिमार्केट कर लो टेबल को. EIA 2006 and draft EIA 2020. And write down in bullet points how things are changing. So this is one way of answering question, because the question is directly asking comparison, or you can write down in bullet points. For example, what are the major changes which has occurred in the draft notification? So let's major सबसे जो major criticisms हैं. So first major criticism, post facto approval. Talk about this. Post facto approval. Now EIA का पूरा एक process है, right? So this post facto approval, basically post facto clearance ये है that even if for certain developmental projects, even if the work had started by a company, they can do the entire EIA process by paying a penalty. This was not allowed in 2006 notification, that first you have to complete your EIA process, you have to complete the EIA compliance, and only then you will get approval. So write about that how post facto approval has been allowed by draft notification while it was not allowed by EIA 2006. Public participation, this is another issue. Now public participation में दो तीन, EIA में public participation is very important. While in the entire process public participation is involved in various steps. Like first you go for the proposal that okay, we are trying to have this set up in this particular area. Then you decide your terms of reference, that what will be the likely impact of EIA. Then you do scoping, screening. So public participation is generally part of various steps in this entire process. Then this EIA report is prepared. This EIA report will be that will go to experts, as well as it will go to public. Public consultation will occur. Now the expert group will decide if this is something which can be changed, if this is accepted, rejected, or accepted with certain modifications. If rejected, then prepare a new proposal. This proposal is no longer valid. But you have to first finish this process, only then you can start. Post facto approval, this was allowed in draft notification, it is no longer, it is not there in EIA 2006. Public participation, now public participation first of all in draft notification is not even mandatory in many types of projects. Government has categorized this certain category of projects where public participation is not even required. For example, road construction in border areas. For MSMEs, which are MSMEs related to dye industry. In some areas, certain areas has been declared as economically sensitive areas. In this economically sensitive areas, government has given itself to a lot of discretionary power, where again certain project can be given the term strategic project, that these are strategic projects in economically sensitive areas. अब अभी तक जो strategic projects थे as part of EIA 2006, they were limited to defense establishments or perhaps nuclear establishments. But now the definition of strategic project, ये जो strategic word है, it is totally dependent on the discretionary power of government. So the definition of strategic project has been widened a lot. Talk about that. Lot of new projects have been involved. Oil and drilling projects, dye industry, MSME dye industry, road construction, बहुत सारी चीजें जो कि With examples you can talk about that. Third thing which you have to remember is compliance monitoring. अब देखो ये पूरा प्रोसेस खत्म हो गया, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है that the responsibilities of company are over. That's not the case. So whatever your terms of reference was, whatever was decided, it needs to be rechecked from time to time that whatever you have promised, you are fulfilling those promises. कि पता चला आपने बोला था कि ठीक है, there will be some sort of damage, but that damage, what you talked on the paper and what actually is happening, there is a huge difference. So that will be a problematic thing. So there was a provision in EIA 2006 that how much you are complying with the EIA norms, this compliance monitoring will occur every 6 months. That every 6 months it will be, the site will be visited and by expert group again, and it will be observed, it will be seen that whatever you promised, are you following to that. Now as part of EIA 2020, this compliance monitoring time period has been extended to 1 year. So compliance which was supposed to occur every 6 months now will occur every 1 year. So this is again a major change for which government was criticized a lot. Fourth is baseline data. अब देखो baseline data क्या है? While preparing EIA report, you have to use data for the entire year, that how your project is going to create, how your project is going to have any adverse consequence. For example, इसको example से समझ लेते हैं. Think about a chemical industry which is going to be set up in an area where there is a river nearby. Now this chemical industry during rainy season, if they are discharging chemicals in very unprofessional manner, or if they are like not taking due course of action, or even if they are doing everything, still chemical seepage can occur into river, especially during rainy season. तो अभी तक क्या था कि while preparing EIA report you have to consider data for the entire year. Now as part of draft notification, the entire year is not important. You can only selectively use data. जैसे for example a chemical factory can use data for the month of say March, April का data ले लिया, but July, August का data नहीं लिया. That the pollution level in nearby river will not change as per the data of March and April. But what about in August and September when there is rain? So this baseline data was required for the entire year in the EIA 2006. It is no longer the same in draft notification. Certain projects, for example, जो बहुत बड़े projects हैं, river valley projects, they had the validity of 30 years. Other projects, mining projects had the validity of 30 years. River valley projects had the validity of 10 years. Now this validity has been extended to 50 years and 15 years respectively. तो जो 30 और 10 है जो validity था, this has been extended to 50 and 15 for mining projects and river valley projects respectively. So all these areas you can talk about, on all these areas how draft notification is different from the EIA 2006, and as part of conclusion you have to ensure, you have to write it down. यहाँ पे conclusion लिखना is necessary. You have to write it down that there is a reason we follow EIA procedure. We want to move to sustainable development. Now in the name of ease of doing business, environmental concerns cannot be ignored. And environmental concerns कौन address करता है? It is addressed by environmental impact assessment exercise. So you have to talk, you have to mention this. So as part of, आपको ये करना है कि government needs to have a wider consultation with stakeholders and then come up with a final EIA notification. So right now it is only a draft policy. There will be some amendments. So as a conclusion, write it down that government needs to involve various stakeholders and then come up with, specially जो experts हैं, environmental experts हैं, government needs to take care of their concerns while coming up with the final guidelines. That will be a concrete answer. So again, this was a very much expected question and UPSC ने पूछ भी लिया. Next question. What are the salient features of Jal Shakti Abhiyan launched by the Government of India for water conservation and water security? अब अगेन ये बड़ा ही एक्सपेक्टेड सा क्वेश्चन है. So try to give some data because the question is talking about in the context of water conservation and water security. So try to substantiate this part, that why water conservation and water security is very important in India. You can give some figures. For example, you can talk about that how as part of Niti Aayog report, as per various reports by Niti Aayog and World Bank, 600 million Indians face the problem of water stress. 75% of households in India do not have piped water supply, and the per capita availability of water in India has decreased from about 1800 cubic meter in 2001 to 1500 cubic meter in 2011, and it will further decrease to about 1340 cubic meter in 2021, that is this year, by 2025. So in next 4 years, the per capita availability of water per person will be 1340 cubic meter, and as per World Bank definition, if this comes below 1200, then you are in water scarce condition. So right now we are in water stressed condition, but in very soon, like in coming 5-6 years, we will become water scarce. In fact, lot of cities are already facing this problem of water crisis. Cities like Bengaluru, Delhi, many metro cities are facing the problem of water crisis. So in this context, government came up with a Jal Shakti Abhiyan with an overall approach to tackle the problem of water crisis. So Jal Shakti Abhiyan is similar to other public participation initiatives. So this government specially has come up with certain public sector participation initiatives. The best example is Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. That public participation is very important if we want to clean India. Similarly, here as part of Jal Shakti Abhiyan, the first and the foremost thing is that this entire water conservation campaign is built on citizens' participation. So what are the salient features? That is the question. What are the salient features of Jal Shakti Abhiyan? तो ये जो लास्ट लाइन है ना, फॉर वाटर कंजर्वेशन एंड वाटर सिक्योरिटी, इसको भी सब्सटैंशिएट करना जरूरी है. सब्सटैंशिएटिंग दिस विद सम डेटा इज वेरी मच इंपॉर्टेंट. इफ यू डू नॉट डू दैट, कुछ मार्क्स आपके कट जाएंगे. नाउ कम टू द सेलिएंट फीचर्स. सो टॉक अबाउट द फोकस एरियाज. व्हाट आर द फोकस एरियाज? लॉट ऑफ फोकस एरियाज. सो जल शक्ति अभियान focuses on many things such as rainwater harvesting, renovation of traditional water bodies, creation of local infrastructure, watershed development, and of course intensive afforestation. All these things are important focus areas for Jal Shakti Abhiyan. Now who will collaborate, who will ensure that this Jal Shakti Abhiyan is actually being implemented properly? So again, the overall coordinating body is Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation, but it involves various other ministries. So you can talk about that. Then you can talk about that how there are intervention teams dedicated at block and district level, that for each and every block as well as at district level we want to have water conservation plans. Then you can talk about that how lot of research and support will be provided by various technical institutes such as IITs to basically come up with water conservation plans and implement them effectively. other type of technology such as 3-dimensional contour maps will be built as part of Jal Shakti Abhiyan. Write about that. The projects taken under Jal Shakti Abhiyan will also be converged with Manrega. तो मनरेगा का एक पार्ट ये ना कि वी हैव टू क्रिएट एसेट्स. सो जो जल शक्ति अभियान में जो एसेट्स क्रिएट होंगे दे विल बी कन्वर्ज्ड विथ मनरेगा. लॉट ऑफ अवेयरनेस कैंपेन्स हैव बीन स्टार्टेड बाय द गवर्नमेंट फ्रॉम इन स्कूल्स, यूजिंग सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स, यूजिंग एनजीओज, यूजिंग पंचायत्स टू इंश्योर दैट पीपल आर aware about this water conservation program. So for example, Krishi Vigyan Kendra Melas, they are being promoted for efficient use of water. There is a special focus on urban areas. The urban areas have to achieve certain targets in time bound manner. So all these are main salient features of Jal Shakti Abhiyan. So whatever you can remember, this was a very important initiative as part Jal Shakti Abhiyan. अच्छा, इसका कोई dedicated budget खुद का नहीं है. Jal Shakti Abhiyan will take budget from different, so for example Manrega का work will be part of Jal Shakti Abhiyan, or other projects part will be part of Jal Shakti Abhiyan. Jal Jeevan Mission has dedicated project that will be part of Jal Shakti Abhiyan. So Jal Shakti Abhiyan is an overarching campaign mission which is based on citizens' participation for water conservation. This is something which you have to write while talking about the salient features of the mission. So this was again a very straightforward question, थोड़ा factual question है. If you know about the salient features, तो कुछ features तो सबको याद रहे होंगे, but again ऐसे बहुत famous campaigns अगर आ रहे हैं, some certain government scheme which is quite very popular, it is very much in news, then you have to know about their salient features in detail. Anyways, so we are done with questions of 10 marks. So as you can see that in 10 marks there are 2 questions of science and technology and 2 questions of environment. None of the questions are from disaster management in 10 marks. Now let's jump to the 15 marks question. So again there are 4 questions in 15 marks. So out of 250, 100 marks question is from these 3 sections: environment, science and technology and disaster management. तो 40% आपका इससे है, तो आप इसको इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते. So whoever is planning to prepare or is already preparing, please ensure that you are giving enough attention to these areas also, because they will give you very high marks. यहाँ पे इनपुट आउटपुट बहुत बढ़िया है, आपका इनपुट कम हो के आउटपुट बहुत ज्यादा होगा. That is the beauty with these sections. Okay. So there are different parts of the syllabus with input output game. So for example, in polity, in economy, in geography, the input is very high but then output is also very high. There are other areas where input, especially I am talking about mains examination. Then there are areas where input is very high but output is less, जैसे world history हो गया, या for example even modern history हो गया. Input is high but output is less. But then there are areas where input is actually less but output is high. Environment, science and technology and disaster management fall in that category. And again I am very talking about specifically to mains examination. For prelims, environment, science and technology के लिए output बहुत ज़्यादा चाहिए, input बहुत ज़्यादा चाहिए. Output भी ज़्यादा है but input भी बहुत ज़्यादा चाहिए. Mains में यहाँ पे input कम है, output ज़्यादा है. Anyways, let's discuss the questions of 15 marks. Question 15. COVID-19 pandemic has caused unprecedented devastation worldwide. However, technological advancements are being availed readily to win over the crisis. Give an account of how technology was sought to aid management of the pandemic. Now this is again a very much expected question. अभी तक जितने भी क्वेश्चन हमने देखे बाय द वे सारे क्वेश्चन ऑल इंडिया टेस्ट सीरीज के थे, विजन आईएएस का जो टेस्ट सीरीज है. दिस क्वेश्चन वाज अगेन more or less directly was in the test series. So this was very much expected question, that how technology is helping us in tackling the problems caused by COVID-19. तो जो शुरू का स्टेटमेंट दे रखा है, द फर्स्ट स्टेटमेंट गिवन इन द क्वेश्चन दैट पैंडेमिक हैज कॉज्ड अनप्रेसिडेंटेड डिवास्टेशन. Try to substantiate it with some data, whatever figure you have, try to write some points. So do not directly jump to that how technology is helping in managing this pandemic, but also talk about that how it has created actually unprecedented devastation. So various reports, for example, World Bank says that tens of millions of people are at the risk of falling into extreme poverty. Undernourished people, by the end of 2020, the total number was more than 130 million, right? Lot of people, migrant crisis, you can talk about how migrant crisis occurred in India. Various countries have suffered from so many things. Hospitals are overcrowded, right? So we can talk about, we can give some data and figure, not more than 30-40 words. So this question is of 250 words, 15 marks a question hai. So out of 250 words, write down in 30-40 words that how COVID-19 has caused unprecedented devastation. The economic scenario, the economic crisis which this entire world is witnessing perhaps was seen the last time in 1929 crisis. तो कुछ कुछ डेटा फिगर हम दे सकते हैं, कुछ कुछ चीजें लिख सकते हैं to substantiate the statement given in the question. Now come to the main part of the question, that is technology has helped and how it has helped. So दोनों सेम ही है. So how it has helped, talk about various aspects of management of pandemic. What are the various aspects of management of pandemic? So for example, you can talk about that how epidemiological studies very quickly found out the origin, not exactly the exact origin, the nature of the virus, nature of coronavirus. It found out the spike proteins, how it infects using our cells. So you can talk about that how lot of epidemiologists worked day and night to actually calculate that how this virus is going to spread across the world. Many figures जो spread था वो भी more or less whatever data was extrapolated, a lot of times those data were wrong also, but many times they were right. So you can talk about that how pandemic was managed, planned using various types of technologies. For example, technologies such as artificial intelligence helped facilitating in COVID-19 preparedness, in tracking of people, in tracking the spread and infection. For example, various tools such as migration maps as well as use of mobile phones, they were used. For example, think about, let's use certain keywords. So contact tracing तो बात की चीज है. The very first is planning during this pandemic. In planning we used various technologies like artificial intelligence, migration maps, social media to find out hotspots of infection. Then you can talk about how we use in contact tracing, we use technologies such as Bluetooth. आप यहाँ पे लिख सकते हैं contact tracing में you can talk about the app developed by Government of India itself, आरोग्य सेतु की बात कर सकते हैं आप. Then you can talk about that how in screening of infection, कि screening for infection, how we deployed various tools such as thermal scanners. Screening of infection, we deployed thermal scanners, oximeters to determine the oxygen level, smart watches, applied various apps to collect pulse, temperature, sleep pattern related data. Then even in quarantine and self-isolation, in quarantine how technology was used. For example, artificial intelligence powered surveillance camera, drone based cameras, all these things were utilized to monitor and restrict the gathering of people in an area. Talk about that. How communication technologies helped, how communication technology helped us maintaining our sanity during the lockdown period. You can talk about that. Then you can talk about that how e-learning, remote work, the concept of e-learning, concept of remote work using Zoom calls, Google Meet. Things became difficult for the first 1 or 2 months, but gradually people transitioned to this online mode of working. This class right now is empty in front of me, but I am able to deliver this lecture using technological tools. So हम इसकी बात कर सकते हैं. Then of course you can talk about that most important aspect which has occurred is vaccine development. Now vaccine development often takes 10 to 15 years. This vaccine has been developed in 1 to 1.5 years using technologies such as, again, artificial intelligence enabled deep learning was deployed to understand the protein structure of SARS-CoV-2, and based on that mRNA vaccines, जो RNA vaccines develop हुए हैं, so that body can develop immunity response, and those vaccines are being deployed across the world as we speak, including India. Talk about that. और भी चीजें लिख सकते हैं आप, और भी, फॉर एग्जाम्पल थिंक अबाउट डिजिटल पेमेंट, कॉन्टैक्टलेस पेमेंट का कॉन्सेप्ट कितना ज्यादा फेमस हुआ है. थिंग्स लाइक गूगल पे, पेटीएम, हाउ मच दे हैव हेल्प्ड, e-commerce, how much they have helped, right? So all these things you can write. How 3D printing, so for example in the initial phases of pandemic, lot of restriction was imposed on personal protective equipments, on face masks, etc. How 3D printing was deployed to manufacture these things on a very large scale, you can talk about that. तो ये सारी चीजें, जितने examples आप लिख सकते हो, write it down. But you again have to talk about in terms of your structure should be very good, that how you started. For example, one structure which you can adopt is that how pandemic started and where we are right now. Similarly, how technology has helped us in coping in all this entire last 1 year. करीब करीब साल भर हो गया ना, साल भर हो चुके हैं. This is the last year Feb March में चीजें शुरू हुई थी. So how pandemic developed, first lockdown occurred in March, and how things developed, and how technology also helped us in managing this pandemic as the time progressed. You can talk about that. Vaccine development ideally should be your last point, that finally we have been able to develop a vaccine in such a short duration thanks to technology. So technology has helped us in managing this pandemic, right? You can also conclude on the similar, on a positive line, that things are going back to normal. Technology is again helping there in restoring the normality. ये सारी चीजें लिख के हम फिनिश कर सकते हैं अपने आंसर को. So whatever examples, the number of specific examples you can write, the number of the specific technologies which you can write in your answer, that will enhance your marks. So that was a question of science and technology of 15 marks. The next 2 questions are from environment of 15 marks. So environment के भी 3 question है. No, environment के 4 question है, sorry. So environment has 2 questions of 15 marks and 2 questions of 10 marks. And final question is of disaster management. So let's go to the question number 16. Describe the benefits of deriving electrical energy from sunlight in contrast to the conventional energy generation. What are the initiatives offered by our governments for this purpose? 2 part of the question. The first part, second part, दोनों को आप ऐसे समझ लो 60-40 weightage होगा. The first part is about 60% of the weightage. Out of 15 marks, 9 marks of first part, 6 marks of second part. और 70-30 weight भी हो सकता है. First part is of course more important. Describe the benefits, but even in second part, the number of specific examples you can give with specific figures, that will give you extra marks. So describe the benefits of deriving electrical energy from sunlight in contrast to the conventional energy generation. Again, this is very important. जहां भी हम benefits लिखेंगे, we will also talk about that how that is a benefit compared to conventional energy generation. So you can write, you can start with that how sunlight is an example of renewable energy. You can talk about renewable, non-renewable energy. And then directly jump to the benefits. What are the benefits? The first and most important benefit is it is a clean energy. जो conventional energies हैं, fossil fuel based energy, they are highly polluting and most importantly, they are the biggest cause of climate change, global warming. Solar energy has no such thing. So it is environment के लिए, ecology के लिए बहुत ही ज़्यादा फायदेमंद है. First point should be that. Second is how the word is renewable energy. It is abundant. Solar energy is abundantly available. Sun is going to be there for next millions and billions of years. Fossil fuel we are soon going to exhaust. So solar energy is in abundant amount. Write that down. It is not polluting, it is not carbon emitting. Write that down. Low maintenance. Solar panel, what is required in solar energy? You require more research and development to make solar energy more efficient. But once you have done that, the maintenance cost is very low. While in case of fossil fuel based energy, be say for example thermal power plants, how much maintenance is required for these plants? In case of solar panels, no, very little maintenance is required. Talk about that. Solar panels can also be deployed into remote locations, in deserts, especially where there is high sunlight. वहाँ पे कुछ भी नहीं हो सकता. There is no economic activity which can go on there, but you can install solar panels. Talk about that, how it will lead to growth of local economy as well as electricity can be provided into remote areas compared to conventional energy. Power losses in solar energy is very less again compared to thermal energy. Talk about that. So solar panels can be rooftop solar panel की हम बात करते हैं, आप अपने छत पे rooftop पे solar panel लगा सकते हो. So distribution of power in such a decentralized way, it means that there will be very less power losses, while in case of conventional energy, huge amount of power losses occur. Talk about that. And finally, but last but not the least, solar energy was very expensive, like having a efficient solar panel that require, but lot of research and development has occurred. The size of solar panels have decreased, and most importantly the cost has decreased. So while fossil fuel based cost is more or less same, it depends upon so many market factors, but it has although reduced in recent times because of a number of factors, but cost has remained more or less same. In fact it has increased overall. तो अगर आप पूरे पिछले 20 साल का डेटा लो तो it has definitely increased, but in case of solar energy it is actually decreasing. The cost is decreasing. Why? Because we are able to produce more solar energy by investing less. Why? How is that? How has it been possible? It has been possible because of more research and development, more innovation. So you can write that. So these are all the benefits you can write about, the benefits of solar energy in comparison to conventional sources of energy. Now come to the next part. Steps taken by India. आप एक थोड़ा सा एक शुरू कर सकते हो कि India has huge potential in terms of solar energy, but we still are actually quite far behind compared to countries like say Germany and USA. But इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि हम बहुत पीछे हैं. India in fact has taken lot of steps, both steps at national and international level. For example, the first thing, अच्छा देखो क्वेश्चन क्या है, what are the initiatives offered by your government? ऐसा भी नहीं कि कोई पॉलिसी या स्कीम पूछा. Initiative is a very wider term. So policy scheme के साथ साथ whatever you can think of. So for example, you can talk about International Solar Alliance. That is an initiative which was proposed after Paris climate, in the background of Paris climate deal. India and France proposed this alliance of countries which lie between Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. Right? Talk about that. We have a national mission called National Solar Mission. The target is that we are going to produce 100 gigawatt of power from solar energy by the year 2022. A lot of amount has been invested to this National Solar Mission. Recently government started a mission called Kusum Yojana. किसान ऊर्जा सुरक्षा एवं उत्तम महाभियान. तो as part of Kusum schemes, farmers are being given solar panels for their water pumps. Right about that. There is a solar charkha mission to train rural people in weaving and spinning using solar panels. There is a scheme for development of solar parks. Right about that. There is Atal Jyoti Yojana, where solar street lighting system are being installed in different part of the country. Then there is development of solar cities, that is a scheme of Ministry of Renewable Energy. Then there are skill development programs with respect to solar energy, such as Surya Mitra skill development program. There is a green energy corridor project envisaged by Government of India. तो ये तो मैंने बहुत सारे नाम दे दिए आपको, 7-8 नाम दे दिए, but even if you can write 4-5, at least mention 3-4 things. International Solar Alliance, National Solar Mission with figure, Kusum Yojana, Solar Charkha Mission, ये सारी चीजें भी अगर आप लिख दो, 4-5 भी लिख दोगे with just explanation in 1 or 2 line, it will be more than sufficient for a comprehensive answer. So पूरा comprehensive answer लिखने के लिए, for a comprehensive answer you will have to write down all these things. So again this was a very straightforward and frankly a easy question. इसमें कुछ भी ऐसे difficulty कहीं से भी नहीं है. Now let's come to the question number 17. Again question number 17 was a very lazy question frankly. जल शक्ति अभियान में भी salient features पूछा है, यहाँ पे भी key features पूछा है. What are the key features of National Clean Air Program initiated by the Government of India? Straightforward question of 15 marks. You have to write this answer into 50 words. What are the key features of National Clean Air Program initiated by Government of India? अब इसमें how to approach this question, because again this question is of 15 marks. So talk about the problem of air pollution in urban areas. Write down, give some facts and figures to explain that how air pollution. अब देखो ये question का कहीं पे कोई statement नहीं है where you need to substantiate it. But since it's a 15 marks question, it is expected of you that before coming to the main part, build a background. तो हमने क्या करना है introduction में, not more than again 30-40 words. Write down that how air pollution is a major problem in urban areas, especially of northern India. And during winter season तो बहुत ही खराब situation हो जाता है. In the months of November, October, last week of October, November, the situation is very bad. We all know that. So talk about that. That concentration of the National Air Quality Index है. In Delhi there are areas where it reaches up to 999, which is the maximum level. In general it remains 400-500 in so many areas of Delhi NCR as well as in many cities of UP and Bihar. You can write that. And you can talk about problems such as, say for example, lot of children are inhaling this poisonous air that reduces the lifetime. Air pollution से millions of people are dying of premature death because of air pollution. Various studies tell you that. There are so many studies. For example, there is a study by World Health Organization. I do not remember the exact figure, but it was definitely in millions, that there are certain million of Indians, I have to go and look at the exact figure, who are dying of premature death because of air pollution. तो थोड़ा सा background एक दे दो. Now in this context, since it is such a big problem in urban areas, you have to talk about National Clean Air Program. This program was initiated by Government of India in few years back, 2 years back. The idea is, the main objective of the program is that by the year 2022, we are going to reduce the concentration of particulate matters 2.5 and 10 by at least 20% in certain cities. So ये specific होना बहुत जरूरी है. So the core, what is the core objective? The core objective is that 2017 is our base year, and in next 5 years, that is by 2022, in next 5 years we are going to reduce the amount of particulate matter 2.5 and particulate matter 10 in certain cities of this country. What are those certain cities? These certain cities are called non-attainment cities. Non-attainment cities. अभी नॉन अटेनमेंट सिटीज क्या है? So there is a index called National Ambient Air Quality Index. So as part of National Ambient Air Quality Index, those cities which are not, so there is a target you have to achieve to consider to be attainment city. That is, the problem of air pollution is not very high in these cities. So these are attainment cities. Rest all the cities are non-attainment cities. And as part of the program, this National Clean Air Program, 102 cities were identified. So what are the different salient features of this scheme? So the very first is target. What is the target? That in 102 cities from about 23 states, these are called non-attainment cities based on National Ambient Air Quality Index. This program is going to be implemented, and most of these cities are tier 2 cities except certain metro cities such as Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru and Kolkata. Who will be participant? So the participant in this program will be industry, academia, in collaboration with various ministries. So a lot of ministries are simultaneous. Overall coordinating body is Central Pollution Control Board. That is under Ministry of Environment and Forest. But apart from that, there is Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, Ministry of Heavy Industries, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health, Niti Aayog, and of course Ministry of Environment and Forest, and CPCB is the overall coordinating body of this scheme. Why all these ministries? Think about different ministries I have talked about. Because these are the main sources of air pollution. Ministry of Road and Transport, Highways, vehicular emission, one of the major sources of pollution. Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, again vehicular emission because of fossil fuel based energy. Ministry of New and Renewable Energy to transition to renewable source of energy. Ministry of Heavy Industries, industrial pollution. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, mainly urban areas. Since we are talking about urban areas, we have to involve urban, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Ministry of Agriculture because of agriculture emission, and Ministry of Health. Why Ministry of Health? Because air pollution has health related issues. So Ministry of Health is also part of this program. What are the major objectives? The major objectives are mitigation programs for prevention, control and abatement of air pollution first, and second, improving the air quality monitoring network. दोनों चीजें करनी है. So we have to improve the air quality monitoring network. Why do we have to do that? Because we want to have a data driven approach. We know the data, and based on data we can have our interventions. So a data driven approach has been adopted. So you can talk about that. So not only control, prevention, abatement of air pollution, but also improvement of air quality monitoring network. The total budget is about 300 crore rupees. It will also collaborate with Smart Cities program, because out of this 102 cities, about 42 cities, 43 cities are also Smart Cities program, part of Smart Cities program. So these two will collaborate, Smart Cities program and National Clean Air Program, they will collaborate. Who will implement it? Implementation will occur at local level. So for example, there will be sectoral working groups. So different sectors are there which are, so for example, for different sector there is a different group which was, for example, vehicular emission हो गया, industrial emission हो गया, agriculture emission हो गया. So there are separate groups to take care of these different sectors. Apart from that, a project monitoring unit at national level, at state level and at city level. At 3 levels there will be project monitoring unit which will oversee that if this program is being implemented properly or not. And a municipal commissioner and district magistrate will play a very important role in all these districts. So the idea is that with lot of technological development, with improvement in air quality monitoring network, with collaboration of various stakeholders, we are gradually going to reduce the concentration of particulate matter 2.5 and 10. देखो ये भी बड़ा जरूरी है. It is only focusing on PM 2.5 and 10. It is not including other pollutants. For example, National Air Quality Index has 8 pollutants. Apart from PM 2.5, 10, it also has ozone, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and I think ammonia. But this program only considers PM 2.5 and 10. तो ये भी एक दिमाग में रहना बहुत जरूरी है. So again, this was a straightforward question. National, अब ये this question was expected in 2018 because 2017 लास्ट में आया था ये स्कीम. तो 2018 में भी नहीं पूछा, 2019 में भी नहीं पूछा, and finally they have asked into 2020. That only tells you that air pollution, since it remains in news, it always remains in news, the steps taken by government becomes very important. Since air pollution always remains in news, this scheme of National Clean Air Program also always remains in news. The government initiatives, important initiatives, even though they are 2-3 years back, you have to read about them. And the last question of paper, which is only one question of disaster management, discuss the recent measures initiated. ये थोड़ा बोलना किसी को पानी जरा दे. Discuss the recent measures initiated in disaster management by the government of India, departing from the earlier reactive approach. देखो, this question is again very interestingly formed. खाली अगर ये पूछा होता that discuss the recent measures initiated in disaster management by the government, then it will be a very easy question. थोड़ा सा difficulty level बढ़ा दिया है. A little bit of difficulty has been introduced in this question, that how it is a departure from the earlier reactive approach. So question has built a context that earlier approaches were reactive. So even though the question not specifically says that, but it means that now we are transitioning to proactive approaches. Our strategies are proactive in nature in last few years. In past it was reactive. What do you mean by that? So as a layman, जिसको disaster management बहुत detail में नहीं पता, but disaster management generally has a cycle that you focus on mitigation, preparedness, you focus on what to do during disaster, and you focus on recovery. So a reactive approach generally focuses on recovery part, that once disaster has occurred, how to handle the situation during disaster and post disaster. That will be part of reactive approach. So reactive approach क्या होगा? Reactive approach will be the focus on during disaster and post disaster. Now this was the major theme, this was the major theme of our past plans, but now we are focusing on proactive approaches. So proactive में क्या focus होगा? Proactive में the focus will be on mitigation, the focus will be on preparedness. Now how recent plans are focusing on mitigation and preparedness, that is the question is. तो इसका एक बहुत बढ़िया क्वेश्चन देखो यूपीएससी ने 2 साल पहले भी पूछा था. 2 years back or 3 years back there was a question asked by UPSC that how Sendai framework is different from Hyogo framework. So the recent global framework for disaster management is the right now the global framework for disaster management is Sendai framework. From 2015, it came in 2015. It has a time period of 2030, so it will go until 2030. Before that we had Hyogo framework. So Hyogo framework was from 2005 to 2015. Now a lot of things were introduced in Sendai framework, and as part of that government came up with a national disaster management plan in 2016. तो ये Sendai framework के context में आपको आंसर लिखना है, that how Sendai framework focuses on pre-disaster जो part है, that is on mitigation and preparedness part. So how do you mitigate disaster? How do you prepare yourself for disaster? So you try to reduce the vulnerability. How do you do that? So a lot of investment has been given by the government in this regard. So there are certain keywords which you have to write down. For example, the focus has shifted to disaster resilience. What do you mean by disaster resilience? So National Disaster Management Plan जो है हमारा, it has a specific focus on disaster resilience. That we have to mainstream resilience. What do you mean by resilience? For example, focus on resilient infrastructure. कि we have a disaster map for different types of disaster and different reasons. For example, we know that coastal area is vulnerable because of cyclones. We know that earthquake vulnerability कहाँ पे ज़्यादा है. We also know about things like forest fire. Right? We know about areas which are vulnerable to tsunami also. So based on that, government has invested a lot into disaster resilience. One of the important aspect of disaster resilience is investment in infrastructure. Another aspect of disaster resilience will be community participation, that is community based disaster management. So involvement of local community. So Sendai framework का एक बड़ा important focus ये है that the primary responsibility of disaster management lies with the state, but the responsibility should be shared with other stakeholders also, such as local government, private sector, and of course community. So without involving community, you cannot have an effective disaster management plan. So a lot of focus has been given to community based disaster management. So disaster resilient infrastructure and community based disaster management. This government is focusing a lot on these things. Second thing is that government is focusing also a lot on non-structural measures. तो infrastructure तो फिर भी structural measure हो गया, that you are developing infrastructure. Infrastructure in terms of what? Infrastructure in terms of, say for example, now government is using different technologies. जैसे government is using navigational data. Government is using geographical data to ensure that what will be the best route during a disaster, where should be a shelter house if disaster comes. So कहाँ पे लोगों को evacuate करके और कितनी जल्दी करना है. There is also a focus on vulnerability. So vulnerability में especially women, children and disables. Disables are the most vulnerable population during vulnerability. So government has a specific plan for vulnerable people. Right, so that is a focus of the government. Then write down about non-structural measures. Non-structural measures में क्या होगा? Warning system. Government is investing a lot into early warning. So early warning system for tsunami, for cyclones, all these things have been developed by the government. Third, what you can write is government is also trying to transition to impact based forecasting. तो अभी तक जो अर्ली वार्निंग क्या था, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल थिंक अबाउट अ साइक्लोन, वी नो दैट वेयर साइक्लोन इज कमिंग, वेयर इट विल लैंड and what is the speed, what is the direction, all these things we know. But a impact based forecast will not only tell you this, but it will also tell you that which areas are more vulnerable, which bridge, which hospital, which school is going to be perhaps destroyed because of this disaster. So apart from the usual information about disaster, its impact is also being forecasted. For that, lot of technologies, meteorological data, navigational data, lot of technologies are being used to invest into that. Next point you can write is that there is a focus on decentralization. So already as part of National Disaster Management Act, we have bodies at national level, that is National Disaster Management Authority, then we have State Disaster Management Authority, and we have District Disaster Management Authority. So there is already a focus on decentralization of disaster management. So you can write about that. There have been awareness campaigns about disaster preparation in schools, involving NGOs, involving community, involving volunteers. Government is also collaborating with other external agencies. For example, India recently was also instrumental in having a alliance called Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. You can talk about that. that how there is a focus on knowledge sharing among stakeholders, knowledge sharing among nations, following best practices, learning from those practices from other countries. So government has invested a lot into proactive part of disaster management. So whenever you are writing this point, तो पहले हम क्या करेंगे, in how do you approach this question, you can talk about in first part of the answer, you can talk about the importance of disaster management. Disaster management होता क्या है, its importance in very briefly you can talk about. Then you can say that how earlier approaches were reactive in nature. आप explain कर सकते हो that reactiveness basically means that once disaster has hit, then government machinery starts functioning towards rescuing people, and after disaster has passed, then recovery, disaster recovery. So that was the prime focus of earlier plans. Abhi jo focus hai, now focus has shifted to proactive approaches such as community based disaster management, such as disaster resilient infrastructure, such as early warning system, use of geospatial data, right, awareness campaigns, decentralization of disaster management. ये सारी चीजें, all impact based forecast, all these are important keywords which you have to mention in this answer. So and this will be a comprehensive answer, and बीच में आप बोल सकते हो कि based on Sendai framework, National Disaster Management Plan focuses on proactive approaches. So there has been a lot of focus on disaster governance. Governance means to determine the responsibilities, accountability of various stakeholders. So we can talk about that, right? So understanding the disaster, strengthening disaster risk governance, investing in resilience, all these things are very important as part of Sendai framework. On that part you can, on that note you can conclude your answer. या आप इंट्रोडक्शन में भी लिख सकते थे या कंक्लूजन में भी लिख सकते हो, बोथ आर टोटली ओके. सो दैट्स इट, वी आर डन विथ ऑल 8 क्वेश्चंस ऑफ साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, एनवायरनमेंट एंड डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट. देयर वाज ओनली वन क्वेश्चन, बट ऑन एन एवरेज डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट पे देखो 2 क्वेश्चन होता है. एक साल 3 क्वेश्चन भी आया था, बट इस साल सिर्फ एक ही क्वेश्चन है. बट दैट डजंट मीन, ऑन एन एवरेज यू विल रियलाइज दैट दिस 3 पार्ट, एनवायरनमेंट, साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी एंड डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट, there are 8 to 10 questions, minimum of 8 each and every year has been asked, and 10 question has also been asked from these 3 sections. So these 3 sections are very important, and if you have any doubt you can ask those doubts, otherwise the next section will be taken by Jatin sir. So only one section remains, that is internal security. There are 4 questions from internal security that will be taken by Jatin sir. So if you have any doubt, in the meantime you can ask those doubts. बहुत बार स्टूडेंट्स बोलते हैं क्या पढ़ना चाहिए इन टॉपिक्स के लिए, क्या पढ़े इन्वायरमेंट के लिए, साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी के लिए, डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट के लिए. आई डू नॉट रिकमेंड अ बुक. आई फील लाइक यू कैन pick up any coaching institute notes. A lot of coaching institutes including Vision IAS has invested a lot. I am not specifically recommending Vision IAS notes. आप बाकी किसी का भी notes पढ़ रहे हो, just read any coaching institute notes which are famous in market, buy them, buy their soft copy, especially for disaster management. Environment, science and technology you already study in for prelims examination. Now in prelims examination you study from like an objective questions के perspective से आप पढ़ते हो. All you have to do, you have to start writing answer from science and technology and disaster and environment. So focus on the keywords which is given in your syllabus. Think about the important issues which were in news from these areas. So the same strategy you adopt in economy and polity, that what were the important issues which were in news in last 2 years from these sections, do the same thing in case of environment, disaster management and science and technology, and definitely you will be able to get very good marks. So on that note I will finish this class, and all the best for your preparation, all the best for examination. Hello, sorry. There is a doubt by Harsh Punya. Harsh is asking ARC disaster management should be followed or not. I do not think it is necessary. ARC recommendation पूरा पढ़ने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. So as I said, pick any coaching institute notes. Good notes will definitely include the points which are mentioned in ARC report. So पूरा report पढ़ने की for one topic. Again remember input output game, this is very important in this examination. How much input you are giving, how much output you are going to get. Pura ARC report just for 1 or 2 question does not make a lot of sense. So concise notes institutes बना के रखते हैं, उनको follow करो, that will be very good. Any other doubt? Prathamesh, any other doubt? Chalo, then I will end the class.